Welcome into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I am Maurice Patton. That is the Newlywed, Wade Neely, back from his elopement out to Utah, where he and Miss Mary Austin tied the knot. Congratulations.
Thank you, partner. Good to be back. Good to be with everybody. And yeah, we are back and in one piece, which is better than unfortunately some folks out at Zion National Park, which may or may not have been discussed on this show, suffered. It was a fun trip though, but glad to be. It's one of those things, it was a great getaway, but also when you come back, you're kind of excited to be back in as many regards.
Yeah, vacations are sometimes kind of like that. And then once you get back and you see everything that didn't get done while you were gone, it's like you never left. But you certainly have a lasting reminder of your vacation. So again, what prompted y'all to do that?
Well, there's, as you like to say, there's always a Tennessee connection, and we got to give a shout out to our buddy Spencer Rich, former Brentwood Bruin, played at Memphis, and now he's at Utah Tech. He's a friend of the family, and his mother had said you guys should come out and run the St. George Marathon and Half Marathon. So we decided to do that many months ago, and then after we got engaged in July, we said, we're already going out to Zion, and we'd already wanted to maybe elope in Vegas when we went earlier this year. And we said, we're already going out there, so we might as well, and was able to pull some strings, and we were able to tie the knot right there at Zion National Park. Monday was the ceremony. So a lot of fun. Luckily, no wheelchairs were needed. We both finished the race. Not a PR for me. Mary Austin had a PR on her marathon time though, so she did great, and everybody survived. Everybody made it out. Had a few friends and family kind of came out and helped celebrate with us. And all in all, was a good time. Even though it was unseasonably hot, and unseasonably hot in October still means about 95 to 96. During daytime hours. Does get down in around the upper 50s at night, but in the midday it's pretty much a scorcher.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, it was unseasonably warm for October here in these parts and in parts east as we snuck off to Pigeon Forge for a few days over the weekend, and it was a little warm walking around up there as well, but it was nice, and it's always nice to get away, but like you said, it's always kind of nice to get back. So glad you were able to get out there, and a good time was had by all. And as you mentioned, Zion National Park was good to you all, so no one got hurt.
No one got hurt. No scorpions, no rattlesnakes. Although we did see no tarantulas. We did see
no tarantulas
at the St. George clerk's office, which is a beautiful building, which was renovated about 2 years ago apparently. But they have a welcome center to the southern Utah area right there. So literally, we got the marriage license, and then 10 feet from us, we can walk over and check out the tarantulas and check out the scorpions, and they were enclosed. They were enclosed, but
they were enclosed.
Did not see any in the wild. We spent the night, the last 2 nights of the trip, at a kind of a glamping outdoor camping style space, and you did have to sign the waiver, saying that scorpions and rattlesnakes are in the area, but luckily none of those were spotted, and no Wild and Wacky Wednesday fodder was to be had from that. So that was the good news. Everybody made it back, like I said, in one piece, which was nice.
No first person Wild and Wacky. That's a little disappointing.
We love to do it. I do a lot of things for the content on here, but that was, when we had to sign the waiver for, I said, excuse me, did you say rattlesnakes? And they said, yeah, you know how it goes, right? Yeah, I mean, it's very unlikely, but we still have to make you sign this waiver. I was like, the fact we have to sign this waiver is
makes it a little less unlikely. Yeah. The fact that we're signing a waiver means that it has been an issue at some point. So, yeah. Well, again, Glad y'all made it back without incident, and
Yeah,
congratulations
made it back
again.
in the Trailblazers, Utah Tech. Spencer's holding it down too, playing pretty well for them this year. Like you said, after he's a grad transfer from Memphis, so he's got a year or two out there. They're 0-6 right now. The record is not the best, but he's still holding it down at least for him at the moment.
Well, is he disappointed that he's not still at Memphis, given the success that they're having right now?
I think that's probably a private conversation that I'd be
Mm.
curious to know the answer to, because you got Memphis who's balling and Utah Tech is 0-6. I'm looking at their schedule now. Austin P will have to go to Utah Tech here in a couple of weeks. They just lost to UNA down in Florence this weekend, so maybe a chance to get a win in a couple of weeks. But yeah, the Trailblazers, as they're called there. So
Interesting. Okay. Speaking of Trailblazers, we're going to be revisiting a conversation regarding another set of Blazers, no trail, but Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner will be our Throwback Thursday conversation at the top of the second hour, as we discussed not too long ago the situation with the University of Alabama at Birmingham's football program, the Blazers, and their second-year coach, former Lipscomb Academy coach Trent Dilfer. Suffice it to say, if you didn't hear this the first time around, the honeymoon is over. And again, we will be revisiting our conversation with Steve regarding the Blazers and their coach at the top of the second hour. Following that, we will be joined by Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian, because the NBA season is right around the corner, and Drew covers the Memphis Grizzlies for the Daily Memphian. So figured we would check in with him and see what's going on with Ja and the boys. So be sure and stick around with us for that. In our next segment, we will be joined on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, by Columbia Academy football coach Seth Anderson. The Bulldogs getting ready for a Division IIA Middle Region matchup at their place tomorrow night against Nashville Christian. Nashville Christian featuring quarterback Jared Curtis, one of the top 2026 quarterback recruits in the country, and a Georgia commit. So we'll be talking to Seth about what he's got planned for that one. So also in today's show, we'll be talking a little baseball, little playoff action specifically, but also a couple of other
I had
topics.
both games. I had both games going on the plane ride home last night at one point, and there's a lot to get into with the current state of these series, especially in the National League.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be getting into that. And in the final segment, we will have the grab bag, and it is jam-packed with NFL, college football, WNBA, a little tennis news, and a local event taking place tomorrow morning that we will mention during the grab bag as well. So we got a lot, man. We got a lot to get to, and we should probably go ahead and get started with it with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Let's kick this thing off. Thursday night rundown. We go to our results from last night, and results are sparse, but we do have them. And we want to tell you that girls soccer saw Rossview a 3-2 winner over Clarksville last night. We mentioned Major League Baseball, 4 games worth of MLB action yesterday. It was Detroit defeating Cleveland. 3-0 was your final there. A grand slam from Lindor puts the Mets ahead of the Phillies 4-1. The Mets advance to the NLCS. It was the Yankees 3 and the Royals 2 as that series heats up there. And the Dodgers stave off elimination with an 8-0 win, defeating the Padres, also forcing an elimination game coming up, I believe, on Friday.
Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton with the game-winning home run for the Yankees in that 3-2 victory there. High school football tonight. All of these are 7 o'clock kickoffs, unless otherwise stated. Antioch visits Christ Presbyterian Academy. Kirkwood goes to Clarksville. Kenwood is at Clarksville Northwest. That will be the Main Street Preps Thursday night game of the week, and you can hear it on Main Street Media Radio. Again, that's a 7 o'clock kickoff for that one.
Real quick, Mo, that's my bad. I apologize. Kirkwood at Clarksville technically is going to be. I tagged the wrong game there, and for good reason. Kirkwood is 6-1, and Clarksville is 7-0. But that will be your Thursday night game of the week tonight, not Kenwood at Clarksville Northwest. So I apologize for that.
No, that's okay, but that one makes a lot more sense. You know, we had the Kirkwood coach on a few weeks ago, and they have been rolling ever since. So yeah, this is a big ball game up that way. Kirkwood and Clarksville is your Main Street Preps Thursday night football game of the week, and you can hear it on Main Street Media Radio. Do we know who the broadcast crew is for that? I assume it's not you.
Not me tonight. I snuck out of duty tonight on that one. I believe it is Chris and Calvin tagged on that one tonight. They've been holding down the fort for a lot of these games. Check your local listings is the best way I can tell you, at kickoff time tonight.
Okay. All right. Kenwood and Clarksville Northwest is a 7 o'clock kick. Brentwood Academy goes to Knoxville Catholic. That is listed as a 7 o'clock start. I feel like that is a local time start, which would be 6 o'clock Brentwood Academy time. At 7, however, will be Rossview at McGavock. So that rounds out your football schedule for tonight, I think. Maybe. I thought Brentwood and Centennial play tonight, but maybe that's tomorrow night. Anyway, Wade, if you want to go ahead with girls soccer, feel free.
Yeah, we'll jump right in. Girls soccer is rolling right along in tournament play, and I'm here to tell you that Harpeth Hall is at Brentwood Academy tonight. That game gets underway at 4:30. 5 o'clock, we'll see BGA at University School of Nashville. Getting into 6 o'clock action will be Sycamore at Fairview. 7 p.m. kickoffs now as Hendersonville is at Gallatin, Columbia traveling to Lincoln County, and Lebanon is at Stewart's Creek. Also at 7 p.m. tonight, the WNBA Finals get underway with a bang. It'll be an ESPN tip-off tonight as the Lynx will travel to the Liberty. Once again, that one comes your way at 7 p.m., and you can catch it on ESPN.
Preseason NBA action, 7 o'clock. You can see it on Valley Sports. The Charlotte Hornets travel to the FedEx Arena, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, we'll be talking to Drew Hill at 3:20, so stick around for that. College football tonight. The Blue Raiders travel to Ruston, Louisiana, taking on Louisiana Tech. That is a 7 o'clock kickoff. You can see it on the CBS network. On the ice, the Dallas Stars come to Bridgestone Arena for the season opener against the Nashville Predators. That's a 7 o'clock puck drop. You can see it on ESPN Plus and on Hulu. And in NFL action tonight, you've got an NFC West showdown between Jawan Jennings and the 49ers and Geno Smith and the host Seattle Seahawks. That's a 7:15 kickoff. You can see it on Amazon Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And apparently, the National Letter of Intent is no longer a thing. Literally, it does not exist, will not exist. The NCAA Division I Council eliminated the National Letter of Intent program for high school student athletes on Wednesday. The changes go into effect immediately and are applicable to the 2025 recruiting class. Now, this was, again, something that the NCAA Division I Council did. I don't know how that applies to the other levels of the NCAA or other college athletic governing bodies such as the NAIA or the National Junior College Athletic Association, but apparently this is in connection with the House settlement, that suit against the NCAA. So basically, kids were signing national letters of intent that were basically binding to an institution. They would also sign a financial aid agreement for an academic year, and they'd sign a scholarship agreement. They are now, with the NLI ceases to exist, they will still sign the athletic scholarship or financial aid agreements and the scholarship agreements. But I'm not real clear, and I tried to reach out to a couple of people to get some clarity and was not able to make contact. But Wade, you've worked in college athletics. What stops a kid from signing a financial aid agreement with school A this week and a financial aid agreement with school B next week? I mean, there's nothing binding you to a specific school, right?
Doesn't seem like it, and that's kind of what I'm taking away from this after reading through it. I mean, it feels like this is just another step in. I mean, we're not all the way in free agency, but we're pretty much in kind of free agency, and this is kind of another step in that regard, and kind of the barriers or points of entry have kind of been really safeguarded and protected through various ways by the NCAA, and this is kind of another layer of that onion that's getting peeled back and is able to be removed or is being removed, which is going to open up. Yeah, it's going to be kind of, this part will be interesting to see how the student athlete, either bargains or dangles or angles, one offer here or one offer there to kind of going on, because that was the big thing, right? It was like that gotcha. Once you put the pen to paper, we kind of got you locked in. It doesn't matter, if you sign with Texas, it doesn't matter what Alabama comes up with down the road, as long as you have already put that pen to paper. So, yeah, for me personally, I'm kind of really curious to see where this goes, because this is like another barrier to entry, if you will, that the NCAA feels like they've now gotten plucked from them a little bit.
Yeah, and as I have stated on numerous occasions on this show, I'm all for the athletes. But if I'm a coach and I think a kid is coming and I get down to, the first day of classes or whatever, and this kid who has signed a financial aid agreement with us winds up somewhere else, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there with my figurative pants down because I'm not covered at this position where we expected this kid, and now he's not coming because he's going somewhere else. And it's pretty much too late at that point to address that loss. So, I mean, I guess to some degree, there's a little bit of a zero sum situation here. This is a win for the players, I would imagine, but it's certainly a loss for the athletic programs and the coaches thereof, because that flexibility that the athletes gain without there being a national letter of intent signed, makes things a little bit more iffy on the recruiting side as you're trying to, put a roster together and that kind of thing. So this is it's a dicey situation, feels like to me.
Feels like, and we're kind of just in that odd nebulous. We're kind of as I mentioned before, the boat has left the dock, and now we're kind of just floating at sea, and we're kind of just waiting until we end up on the other side, which is going to be what I think a lot of folks are assuming is going to be pure transparency, full employee status. I mean, we're kind of all trending in that direction, but in the meantime, we're kind of in this weird kind of wild, wild west, truly type mold, where there's a lot of things that, just aren't done the way that they were, but they're not quite where they need to be, if that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. And with that ships at sea analogy, batten down the hatches because it's getting ready to get a little bumpy, I think. Meanwhile, the NCAA earlier this week announced that transfer portal windows have been cut by a third, from 45 days to 30 days. So if you are going from school A to school B, you're going to have less time to do so. Let's see. The spring transfer window does still exist. The fall transfer window will be reduced from 30 to 20 days. Post-spring window will go from 15 to 10 days. So, again, decisions are going to be made a little bit more quickly. I guess that's a concession for schools, that they don't have to wonder as long, whether they're going to get a kid or not. So, yeah, it's a different world college athletics is these days. So,
yeah, kind of just like you said, clearing the way a little bit. And this is kind of inevitable. I'm just reading through this article on CBS. I mean, we're kind of getting everything ready for revenue sharing, which kicks in next year in the 25 season. And that's when things really kind of start moving in a certain direction. So we're trying to kind of protect the teams, protect the coaches, protect the institutions, while also obviously enabling the players as much as humanly possible. So like I said, it's kind of a bumpy ride at the moment. Like you said, let's batten down the hatches because things are kind of weird, kind of murky. And for these next couple of seasons, it feels like we're still going to be navigating those waters until we kind of get everything smoothed out.
Absolutely. Let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by Columbia Academy football coach Seth Anderson on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley. Stick around after the break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are pleased to be joined now on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, by third-year Columbia Academy football coach Seth Anderson. The Bulldogs 5-2, unbeaten in Division 2A Middle Region action. Got a big one tomorrow night on their field, on their campus against 5-1, 2-0 Nashville Christian. Coach, welcome. We appreciate you taking some time, especially over fall break, to be with us.
I appreciate you having us. I appreciate you and everything you do for covering not just Columbia Academy, but all the athletes here in Middle Tennessee.
Well, thank you, sir. Hey, what has fall break done in terms of your preparation this week for what is really a big ball game tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's not normal not having classes or anything, but it does allow you to really just focus on football. It allows the guys a little bit of rest. They're able to get away and they can just really focus on football and not have to worry about homework or tests or quizzes or anything like that. And so we've kept our practice schedule the same. We've tried to keep some element of normalcy in that. So they've done a really good job of locking in and really taking a really business-like approach this week.
Not only is it fall break, but this is also a TV game. WUXP, My TV 30, has picked this up as part of their Friday Night Rivals series. Will this be y'all's first TV appearance?
Yes, sir. This is the first time we've been on TV. The NFHS network. We have a stream of that for every game. Mm-hmm. This is the first time we've been on TV, so pretty exciting for sure.
What have you talked to anybody about? All the breaks and everything that comes with that. I mean, I'm planning on being there a little longer than typical tomorrow night, but I mean, everything that comes with TV as opposed to the streaming, like you said. I mean, what are you anticipating? What are your expectations as far as that goes?
So communication with My TV 30 has been great since, I guess, almost 2 weeks ago when they let us know that they were looking at broadcasting this game. And they sent us out a very detailed packet kind of explaining there'll be 2 media timeouts per quarter, obviously a media timeout at the quarter. So we've told the guys that, but it doesn't really change a whole lot other than the fact that we get a couple extra built-in timeouts and might have to stick around an extra 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, those games get a little long. With all due respect, and I'm not sure if WUXP said this, but I would imagine one of the draws of this ball game is Nashville Christian junior quarterback Jared Curtis, the Georgia commit. Now, also, you guys being 5-2 and having gone to their place and beaten them last year probably adds an element to this, to the attractiveness of this matchup. But, I'm sure that Curtis's name is going to be mentioned quite a bit on that broadcast. I know you want it to be mentioned that he was being sacked by X, but I mean, just talk about that element of this ball game, playing against the SEC commit and, the challenge, but also, the coaching points for you guys.
Absolutely. Obviously, Jared Curtis is an unbelievable athlete. You don't get looked at by every SEC school, just by happenstance. He's got a great arm. He's very mobile. He's the leader of that team, and he's got a lot of pieces that go around him. Obviously, he's the focal point. You don't really stop a kid like that. You just got to try to slow him down and try to limit the damage. And that's been the real focal point for us defensively, is limit the big play. I think if you can not give up many explosive plays, then you put yourself in a chance to be in there at the end. they're too good of a team not to make plays. They're going to have some success, and we just got to limit it, try to slow them down. And I think we've had a really good mental approach this week of making it all about us. And making it. If we execute our game plan, and like I said, limit mistakes offensively. We got to hold on to the football. We can't give them extra possessions. That's the last thing you want to do. If we can play a clean game, no penalties or limit penalties, then we feel like we'll have a chance, at the end. I think it's going to be a great game, two great teams, and really excited for tomorrow night.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, Mo and I have talked, and everybody in Middle Tennessee has talked about your explosive playmaker in Monte Baldwin. But considering this matchup, and it was interesting that we kind of have touched on defense, who are some guys on the defense that have played well for you? I mean, I'm looking at you guys averaging right around 20 points a game, 21 maybe surrendered, but Nashville Christian's got a good defense too. So I kind of get the feeling that this could be a low-scoring game where the defense wins it for either team. So who are some of those guys maybe?
Absolutely. Defensively, our defensive line, James Robert Atkins, he is second on the team in tackles from the defensive tackle spot. He's done a great job using his athleticism. Jack Gordon is another defensive end for us that we expect to kind of get some pressure on Jared Curtis tomorrow night, trying to use their speed and athleticism. Middle linebacker, Nixon Love, he's the team's leading tackler. He just has a nose for the football. He's a very athletic kid. Maybe not the biggest middle linebacker, but he's quick and very strong. And then in the back end, Mac Jackson, our free safety, has been two-time All-Region, was All-State last year. He's third on the team in tackle. So those three guys kind of line up as our leading tacklers and right down the middle of our defense, really the heart of our defense.
Defensively, I'm curious too, with such a high-profile matchup, are you the type of coach you're sprinkling in new stuff right here for this specific matchup, or are you kind of the coach that just rolls out and says, hey, we know what we do well, and we're just going to kind of stick to that plan for this matchup?
Well, I think you have to have your identity and lean on your identity. Also, against a team like Nashville Christian, you can't just do the same thing over and over again. I think you got to be pretty versatile. You got to mix it up a little bit, whether it be sending pressure, dropping back into coverage. You have to do different things, give different looks, or else they'll pick you apart. And that's what we want to do. We want to try to keep them guessing a little bit and kind of on their heels. That's kind of our goal. Now, once again, they're going to make plays. They're a good team, and we have to limit those explosives and tackle really well. If Curtis gets loose, he's hard to bring down. He's a big kid, big, strong kid. And so we have to tackle really well, get 11 hats to the ball, and do a really good job of playing sound, fundamental defense.
Seth Anderson, third-year Columbia Academy football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party. Seth, last year at Nashville Christian, you guys really had success against him in a 27-20 win. Picked him off a couple of times, held him to 257 total yards, less than 200 throwing, I think. Is that something that you draw off of going into tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, you can look at last year and some things that we did that we had success on. But, at the end of the day, it's a new team. They're a different team. We're a different team. You talk about the two picks that we had. Both of those guys are no longer on the roster anymore. They graduated. So we'll definitely have to have other people step up. And, we had a real good game plan against them last year, but it's completely new team this year, and hopefully we can replicate the same results.
Completely new team on both sides, but one thing that has not changed is you guys still have number 3 in the backfield, Monte Baldwin, and Curtis is a game changer. Monte is as well. 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns through 7 games for you all to this point, and you've not been afraid to hand him the ball. I think he had it 37 times in a game earlier this year when he went for like 241 yards. I mean, as Boots Donnelly would say, the ball is not heavy, and y'all aren't afraid to give it to him. If he gets it 30 plus times, you feel like it's a good night on a bunch of different fronts because he's probably broken some of those, right?
Yes, sir. And if we're giving it to them 30 plus times, that's a lot of snaps that they don't have the football. And we've talked all week. They have a great defense. They like to focus on stopping the run, and Monte really takes that as a challenge this week. He knows there's going to be a lot of 2-3 yard gains, but he's just got to stay patient. And if he does that, then the explosive will come. He might go 2, 4, 5, and then 40. You just got to stay patient and lean on our offensive line, who's done a really good job this year of gelling. We brought back 4 starters. Unfortunately, we lost one of our starters at Huntington. Caden Johnson hurt his knee. He's done for the year. But Boone Pollard has stepped in, taken his spot, done a really good job, and they've really meshed over the last 3 or 4 games. And we're going to lean on them, and then obviously in the pass game, rely on Steven to get the ball to our playmakers, and hopefully that'll open up Monte a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you get too conscious of the run game, obviously you've got guys that can make them pay on the outside. Stephen Neves, 1,090 passing yards and 14 touchdowns to this point, and obviously Harrison Brownlee and the freshman Wyatt Ayers have been able to make some plays for you in the passing game over the course of the season.
Absolutely. Wyatt really brings a added dimension in stretching the defense vertically. He has tremendous speed, and Harrison Brownlee probably I think statistically leads us in receptions and yards, and he's done a fantastic job. And we just got to try to get the ball to him different ways, whether it be screens or trying to push the ball downfield to him, or trying to get him in space. Because, like you said, that opens up Monte if we can execute, and that's what it comes down to is we have to execute some pass plays in order to lighten the box a little bit.
This last couple of years, Coach, I mean, you guys won this region last year. You're playing basically for a region title here tomorrow night in all likelihood. I mean, the success that this program has had over the last couple of years, what in particular would you attribute that to?
We got a great group of kids, great coaching staff. They've really bought into the program and the culture here, and it's really a family atmosphere that we've experienced a lot of things on and off the field over the past couple of years, and that's really created a bond with these guys. So once again, it goes back to these kids. And they're not just their athletic ability, because that is a part of it, but their cohesiveness and their family mentality. You can really see that, and I think I attribute our success to that culture and to that mindset.
Kind of walking in that same vein, Coach, I'm curious. I mean, you guys have had a couple of home games to start the year, but you almost hadn't played since that DCA game back. It kind of feels like it's been close to a month. With that, coupled with the fact that it's on TV, what can fans or what can spectators expect from you and your crowd tomorrow night for such a big game?
That's really a great question, because with it being fall break, as a coach, you really don't know what the crowd's going to be like. A lot of people out of town, some people saying they're coming back. With a lot of teams on fall break, people might be searching for a game to go to and might say, let's go watch Jared Curtis play football, and so they might drive down from Nashville or wherever and to come watch. So hopefully they'll be wearing navy and red and cheering for us. But I hope to have a great crowd tomorrow night. It's going to be a great atmosphere. The weather is going to be fantastic, and really looking forward to tomorrow night and playing at home. Once again, like you said, it's been since September 20th since we've been at home. So really looking forward to getting back out here at JJ Savage.
Seth Anderson, Columbia Academy football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and look forward to seeing y'all over there at JJ Savage tomorrow night for what's going to be a thriller, I do believe. So good luck to y'all.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having us, and looking forward to see y'all too.
All righty,
Coach.
Before we get out of this segment, we need to give out a couple of awards. First of all, our Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Besides the military, there is no greater team building enterprise than sports. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. This week's team of the week is the Independence High School football team that snapped a 6-game losing skid to open the season last Thursday night with a 37-0 win down at Overton in Region 6-6A action. Pretty dominant performance by the Eagles, particularly in light of the fact that, again, they were coming in 0-6, but a big win for them kind of keeps postseason hopes alive for the Eagles. So big victory for Independence in this one. And again, they are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. And if it sounds a little redundant, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week is Independence punter Andrew Bingham. And the senior Air Force commit averaged 50.3 yards on 3 punts, one of which was a 74-yarder. All 3 of his punts were down at or inside the Overton 10-yard line. One of those punts led to a safety in Independence's 37-0 win last week against Overton. So Andrew Bingham, Independence's senior punter, is our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to his Eagle teammates. Again, our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, let's talk a little postseason baseball. Stay with us after this.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. October 10th, 1948. Facing elimination, the Boston Braves got 5 2/3 scoreless innings of relief from Warren Spahn and scored 6 runs in the 7th to rally for an 11-5 win over the host Cleveland Indians. With the win, the Braves extended the World Series to a 6-game. Spahn allowed a hit and a walk, striking out 7, and a sac fly off Satchel Paige drove in the Braves' final run of the contest. That was this day in Braves history. Playoff action, as we mentioned during the rundown, continued yesterday with a full slate of games, including one, as it turned out, elimination game as the Mets knocked out the NL East champion Philadelphia Phillies 4-1 and put myself and David Wilson in a bit of a predicament yesterday as Braves fans, because we were a little twisted on who to root for in that one, and in that
you
series
want both teams to lose.
Exactly. And so I think this is the way I wanted it to work out, though, because I wanted Philadelphia to lose as quickly as possible. I just want the Mets to lose eventually. So
twist the knife further down the road.
Yeah, but yeah, the Phillies, and here's the thing: it's not so much the Phillies as it is their fans. Just hopefully that will shut them up for a little bit. But
spoiler, it will not.
Yeah,
we're talking Philadelphia, Mo. Spoiler, it will not.
Yeah, you are right. You are absolutely right. But the Mets move on and they get a little break and they catch the winner of the Dodgers-Padres series, which will go to a Game 5 thanks to LA scoring big early and roll into an 8-0 victory in that one out at Petco Park. So Game 5 will go back to Dodger Stadium. And is it tomorrow night? Did we determine that?
Yep, 7:08.
7:08 tomorrow night will be the Padres at the Dodgers. You can see it on Fox. Yu Darvish getting the ball for the Padres in that one. Yamamoto will make the start for the Dodgers, and backs to the wall all the way around. Game 5. Someone will advance out of that one. Meanwhile, both the Yankees and the Tigers took 2-1 leads in their respective American League division series. One of those probably less surprising than the other, but again, Giancarlo Stanton with a home run late to push the Yankees past Kansas City 3-2, and Detroit, and we're told, or David Wilson said yesterday when he was with us, that former Main Street Media employee Brady McAtamney was in the house for the Tigers 3-0 win over the Guardians yesterday. So happy for him. He's a long-suffering Tigers fan. So that's awesome. They will play Game 4 today. Again, the Guardians and the Tigers will play at 5:08. That game is on TNT. Followed by the Yankees and it won't be followed by, because the Guardians and the Tigers will still be going at 7:08 when the Yankees and the Royals get started. That one will be on TBS. So plenty of good baseball still to be seen, even if it doesn't involve my Braves or Wade's Astros.
Yep, and it's going to be fascinating how this plays out, because just before that clubbing last night the Dodgers put on the Padres. Vegas had already made the Padres the new betting favorite to win not just the NL but the World Series. And so it's how quickly things can shift, because as it sits right now, the Yankees are now your small favorite. The Dodgers slightly, but it's kind of basically evened up. The only teams that have really major long odds are the teams that are down 2-1 in the series, the Royals and the Guardians at this point. So everybody's kind of clubbed in there. Your NL, the Mets, the Dodgers, and then the Padres. But yeah, that's how quickly things turned with those big bops early. I think Mookie hit one as well again last night. Been playing well. Lindor, the plane ride mode. We were flying back Delta last night, and they had only one channel available on the live TV. So we pull up the very first pitch. I'm not even joking. The very first pitch, as I pull up YouTube TV on my phone, is Lindor sending one into orbit. And I hadn't even plugged in my headphones yet, so I had no audio, and you can't gauge it entirely, but you can tell how hard it's hit off the bat. And I thought it was going to the gap, and then that sucker just was going and going and going. And so whether it's Grimace being back in the house or what, the Mets are absolutely rolling yet again. And as you've said, sometimes it's not the great distinction you may think, winning the division, as the Phillies do indeed bow out last night.
Hey, yeah, I hate it for them. Okay. Not really. But
if you're a fan of the division at large, you were in obviously a win-win situation, because one of the teams is going to get out of that series. And
there you go.
The Mets, absolutely, man, they're coming up with clutch hits, and they're just listening to a different podcast. They were talking about there was a Phillies fan on there. And I mean, they're kind of used to it a little bit over their years of suffering, but they kind of maybe were thinking, okay, well, it's the Mets. The Mets are just as bad and downtrodden as we are. Surely we can't lose to these guys. And the Mets are playing with an insane bit of confidence right now. So whether it is San Diego or whether it's Los Angeles, I think that will be a fun National League series. Obviously, the MLB execs are hoping to keep the dream alive of, Dodgers and Yankees. All eyes will be tuned on that one tomorrow night. The Padres have been playing fantastic, but they really stubbed their toe with that one last night. Never could get anything going.
I tell you, who's in a tough spot right now is the Cleveland Guardians.
And the whole wedding party is all Cleveland folks too. Yeah, there was a lot of grim looks over the course of the week with the Guardians fans that we were around.
They are down 2-1. And the Tigers have got presumptive American League Cy Young Award winner Tarek Skubal sitting and waiting in Game 5 if it gets to there. So
that is not a good situation to be in.
They're playing at Detroit tonight, and if it goes home, they're going to get Skubal. Rots of ruck for the Guardians here.
Only saving grace, I guess, you're playing at home at that point. But yeah, you don't want any part of that guy.
You really don't. Not the way he's been pitching of late, man. Well, all year, I guess. But shifting away from the postseason, Tropicana Field down at Tampa was set to be used as a shelter for workers responding to Hurricane Milton. Last night, its roof got destroyed. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it or not, and I don't know if Mark's going to be able to get it up on such short notice, but the roof to the indoor facility was just shredded by what were measured as upwards of 100-mile-an-hour winds during that hurricane. So they've got some work to do. It's not immediately clear, according to this report on NBC News, whether the interior of the stadium was damaged. But again, the panel, I guess it was a fabric roof or something to that effect. But witnesses say they heard a ripping sound as those winds did that damage, and that's a drone view into the stadium there that you shouldn't be able to see. So
No, that was tough, and that footage right there. I mean, it reminds you of the abandoned building footage you can find on the web and the pictures, which oddly I'm fascinated by. But this obviously was unfortunately due to a real tragedy. But it reminds you of the Pontiac Silverdome, where they still have all of the ripping, like you said, and the fabric kind of just strewn about. And this is a real bad scene. Like you said, even more unfortunate because of what the building was supposed to be used for, as far as hopefully a place of shelter and safety for everybody. But instead, it was tattooed as well.
The Florida Division of Emergency Management was establishing a 10,000 person base camp at Tropicana Field to support ongoing debris operations and post landfall responders. So clearly that's not happening. As it became clear that there was going to be something of that magnitude within the distance, they redeployed them out of Tropicana, according to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis earlier today. There were no state assets that were in Tropicana Field. Tropicana opened in 1990. This is nuts. I mean, I don't know what the timetable would be for getting that repaired. The American League Club said it's in no hurry to determine the extent of damage to Tropicana Field. Our priority is supporting our community and our staff. We are fortunate and grateful that no one was hurt by the damage to our ballpark last night, the team said earlier today. Over the coming days and weeks, we expect to be able to assess the true condition of Tropicana Field. In the meantime, we are working with law enforcement to secure the building. Rays are set to open their 2025 schedule on March 27th against the Colorado Rockies. So, oof.
Yeah, I'm reading here too. The roof constructed of panels made of fiberglass and coated with Teflon. Like you said, though, it was shredded. That is the only, I didn't know this, the only Major League Baseball stadium with a roof that is now not retractable. So an unfortunate piece of trivia coming out of this. And it says that, according to their media guide, that the roof could sustain winds up to 115 miles an hour. And obviously it doesn't seem like much, just going barely above that. But man, that is, as we saw the damage just a moment ago, I mean, this is a rough situation here. For their stadium, there's been flooding at the Buck Stadium as well, and we'll talk, probably about South Florida and them moving their game with Memphis. I mean, it is a very scary situation. Man, back-to-back tough hurricane brunts we've had to deal with here in the last 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Real quick, and we'll probably talk more about this in future Main Street Sports Today's episodes, but the head physician of the Texas Rangers has proposed a rule change that would address the health of pitchers in the game. Getting rid of 2-strike foul balls. And
like a bunt situation?
Exactly. If you foul off a pitch with 2 strikes, it's an out. Just like the bunt situation, like you said. And you can see where it would have the effect of reducing pitches. I mean, you see those 9, 10, 11 game pitch at bats, and those are obviously high stress pitches that pitchers are throwing. If you can get rid of those, it brings down pitch counts, and maybe the fewer pitches you throw, the less opportunity there is to get hurt. So it's an interesting proposal for sure. And I would imagine hitters are going to push back on it, but it's as we've talked on this show on numerous occasions over the course of the season, pitchers and pitching injuries have gotten to the point where something needs to happen. And I don't know what it necessarily lines up to be, but this has got as much possibility as anything, I think. So
that 508 start you mentioned would bleed into the 708 tonight if you implement this. So yeah, you can get a nice,
maybe not.
You can get an hour 50-minute game in if you play your cards right with this rule.
Absolutely. So something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it'll get up off the ground or not, but it's out there, and we'll see what happens with it. Hour number 1 of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance, is in the books. When we return for hour number 2, again, it is Throwback Thursday, we will revisit our conversation with Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner as we talked with him regarding former Lipscomb Academy football coach, current Alabama Birmingham football coach Trent Dilfer in his second year, and kind of falling short on the how to win friends and influence people type approach. Stick around when we come back from the break. It was an interesting conversation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Because we're going to talk a little Alabama Birmingham Blazers football with Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner here. Because Steve, as I was saying in our open, I was noticing on social media following Saturday's 41-18 loss to Navy in AAC action, and Trent Dilfer's post-game press conference where he told his kids to come on up and sit with them because it's not like this is the University of Alabama. A lot of folks kind of took exception to his flippancy there, and it seems like maybe that wouldn't have been so bothersome under other circumstances. But first, Steve, thanks for taking some time with us. Second, what is the climate around UAB football in Trent Dilfer right now?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on first off, but it's not good right now. Obviously when you're 1-3, coming off 4-8, and then you're 1-3, nobody's happy. And so it's some tough times now. And, post game had a little bit to do with it the other day, a lot to do with it the other day. And honestly, I'll say this is I was one of the two reporters in the room that he was talking about. And I wasn't bothered by it because I had the full context of it. I can understand why a lot of people were bothered by it because you don't have full context. But the full context of it really was what he was saying was, hey, there's only two people here. There's no cameras. There's four stations in Birmingham, and not one of them was there. So there was one camera, just the in-house camera that where everybody saw it through, and then two reporters. And, his point was it's so small, so casual, just bring him up type thing. Now, what you can't do at UAB, there's a buzzword, there's Alabama football, a buzzword that you can't use, and that was the mistake that was made. He didn't mean it in the way that people thought he did. And I can understand why people thought he meant that way. Because if you don't have the full context, then you could it's easy to get to that spot, if you don't have the full context. But I wasn't that bothered by it. I mean, it was just, hey, it was a small setting, and y'all know Trent is so family oriented, and he's absolutely in love with his grandson, and that's what it was. But again, it wasn't handled, it wasn't communicated well. Really. And so I think that's where we come into. And then today, he had a chance to kind of explain himself a little bit, kind of explain the situation, and don't think he did a great job of explaining the situation. Came across as being a little defensive, which it's kind of his nature, I mean, he just speaking like he speaks, but it comes across defensive. So it's just kind of a miscommunication. But if they're sitting here 3-1, coming off an 8-4 season instead of 4-8 season, then this isn't the subject, and honestly, if he doesn't use the buzzword, he doesn't use the Alabama press conference, then we're probably not talking about it either. If he would have just said, hey, this is not like a Power 5 or heck, even Auburn, but you don't use the word Alabama, there's just a lot of water under that bridge, and that's just kind of something you don't really do there.
Yeah, as bad as things have been at UAB, Auburn fans maybe say, I don't know, they've seen worse here right now. So yeah, I see what you're saying there, Steve.
Yeah, it's one of those hold my beer, boy, it's really bad here. And you go, oh, hold my beer, and it's one of those things. So in fact, it was funny. I was walking out from the game the other day, and, Auburn was already playing, but didn't really know what the score was and everything. And talking to somebody from UAB, and they said, boy, I sure hope Auburn has a bad day today because that'll help us, type thing. And he was kidding, but a little bit. There's probably a little bit of serious to it. But, so they're both struggling right now.
Steve, does that situation and the fact that he did actually use the buzzword, is that just kind of a lack of really feel for the situation, or is that, like you were kind of saying about Trent, is that just says what he says and doesn't really care how it lands?
Yeah, I think it's more that. I think he understands the situation, and that was one thing that, the person that asked him the question today said, do you not understand the history of UAB football? And he's like, I fully understand the history. And I think he really does. I think the one thing about Trent is I've noticed in the time I've got to know him over the last year and a half or whatever it is, he truly, and I think this is truly now, I don't think he really cares what people outside the program or outside who's important to him. I don't think he cares what they think, and there's a goodness to that. There's a good side of that, but there's also a bad side of that, that you can take it maybe a little bit too far. But I truly think that he is, other than the people in his building, and maybe his bosses type thing, but the people in the UAB football building and his family are basically what he cares about, but what he cares, what they think about him, and so I think there's a little bit of that, it's a little bit of, and I think part of that is just with kind of his football life. You've got to sort of do that as an NFL quarterback. You've got to sort of do that. You've got to sort of just tune out what people are saying from the outside, or it'll drive you crazy, or it'll change who you are and that type of thing. So I think his belief is, I want the people that I count on to be to care about what I say and what I do. But outside of that, I'm not sure that he really spends a whole lot of time worrying about that.
That said, how did the people inside his building react to that?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's hard to tell right now. The one thing that I'm impressed with, which was kind of answer this question a little bit, is he really treats his people well. And he treats these players and coaches and staff well. So I think in situations like this, they react in the way that he wants them to react. Now, again, we'll see. Now, you're talking about Sunday, we don't have a chance to see anybody there, and Monday is an off day other than his press conference. So it's an off day for everybody else. So we'll see Tuesday, kind of what practice looks like, what the moves like, what the tone is like. I will say, walking into his office, because what they do on their press conference day is called Coffee with Coach, which is kind of a neat thing that the SID Ted Feely came up with. So you go in his office and you all sit down, because it's not a big crowd, obviously, like he said the other night, not a big crowd. You wouldn't do it at Alabama. There's that buzzword. But you go in his office and you sit down. So you walk through the building to, in the offices to get to his office. And I saw a couple coaches that, said hi to, and, just kind of, it seemed like business as usual inside the building. So, I didn't see any difference this week. So I don't foresee that it's going to be any different. Now we'll see. Again, with players, we'll see. This is, especially this day and age. And I know y'all talked a lot last week, probably about the UNLV situation and what that's going to mean moving forward. It's real easy right now. You're sitting here at game 4 with UAB, and they're 1-3. So are there kids that are going to go, hey, it's not working out for me here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to redshirt. I get my redshirt year because I've only played 4 games, and and look elsewhere. Or is that going to happen? I don't know. He seemed to indicate today that there was no indication of that on Sunday, that he was really really was pleased with the way the kids reacted coming in on Sunday and doing what they have to do. So we'll see moving forward, but so it's hard to tell on that right now.
Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Steve, as you mentioned, Dilfer sits here. He was 4-8 in his first season. He's 1-3 right now. He had no collegiate coaching experience prior to coming into that position from Lipscomb Academy. Yeah. Is there, yes, Saturday aside, is there concern about 2025 for him?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Until he proves different, there's huge concern, and so we'll see. We'll see what's. I don't think there's concern. I think unless he walks away, I don't think there's a concern that he's not going to be here. I don't think at this point. But as far as winning games, and I do think that he's got a very good football mind, and I think he's a good football coach. I really do. From what I've seen, I think he's a good coach. Now he hadn't shown it at the college level. But I do think it's a matter of time. And I think one thing that you have to look at with him that he doesn't really talk about, and a lot of people don't talk about, because right now, you're coming off what Bill Clark did there, and then the 1 year Brian Vincent it's even though the program has struggled for a long time, it spoiled people. It spoils you, and I mean, it spoils you. What they did was pretty amazing, and it spoils you, and you expect that to keep going. And the one thing that Trent did when he came in was he made the conscious decision that he was going to pretty much tear things up and try to bring in his people, his type of what he wanted in a program, as far as personnel wise goes. And I mean, he's got, I don't remember the number right now, but I think it's the mid 60s to high 60s of guys he's brought in the two recruiting cycles that he's had. The first one wasn't a full cycle, but it was 1.5 cycle basically. And so he basically decided he was going to rebuild because he runs things different than Bill Clark, and he wants to do things differently than Bill Clark. They have a different idea of what an athlete looks like, what they want in their program, which is great. But he made that conscious decision to, hey, I'm going to tear this up and build from scratch. Well, you do that when the people before you failed, and you get time. You do that when the people before you went, won two conference championships, went to, were bowl eligible all 6 years, and in a program that had been bowl eligible one time, or been to a bowl one time, been bowl eligible 3. You do that then, and you don't have the same, the same time. You don't have the same feel of it when because people look in the outside and go, well, why are you rebuilding something that was strong, And so I think that's been a factor in this, that he does need a little time, I think, to get to what he wants and get things going. So I think there's a little bit of that, but it's hard to take when you've been so successful, before he got there.
Yeah, and Steve, I wanted to kind of pick your brain. Trent gets hired, and immediately the comparisons with the other Super Bowl winning counterparts, Dion, are kind of there. Yeah. They're calling him, Dion Light, essentially, down there in UAB. And so, with that being said, I mean, how we've seen in the last couple of weeks, Colorado has magically kind of turned a little bit of a corner. But I'm looking at UAB's schedule, hosting a really good Tulane team. You still got undefeated Army to play, and South Florida, who gave Alabama a really good game a couple of weeks ago. Is this a deal where it's going to potentially get worse in terms of media scrutiny, even though you said there weren't really any media there the other night? But I'm just curious, how bad does this have to get before things really kind of get nasty in your mind down in Birmingham?
Well, it's getting there for sure, Wade. You're looking at, like you just said. I mean, you read that schedule. You're looking at 1-6. I mean, you really are. I mean, unless they find a way to win, they're going to be considerable underdogs in all 3 of those games. They haven't won a road game in under Dilfer yet. They're 0-6 last year and 0-2 this year. So they haven't proven they can win a road game under him. So you're looking at, you're staring hard at 1-6. So that's tough. And that's tough. Now, what you look at, and the back end of their schedule is winnable. If they're playing well, and if they're in a good spot with their head, and everybody's happy.
Is that maybe that Memphis game?
Yeah, right.
That could be tough. Yeah,
right. 4 out of those 5 though are good. Yeah. The Memphis game is the one that that's going to be tough.
I like any team's chances versus UConn. So I see what you're saying. When they play them on November 9th.
Yeah, but that's Buffalo about UConn. But UConn beat that kind of.
Good point.
Yeah, but they're winnable. But you got to get there first. And these 4, starting with the Navy game, when you looked at it, or really 5, starting with the Arkansas, you looked at that and went, oh boy, this, that's why, to me, one reason why the Monroe game was so important. One is you're playing against Bryant Vincent, the former interim coach. But two is you're looking at, okay, if I go into these 5-game stretch 2-0, I have a lot better feeling about myself, thinking like, okay, maybe I can steal 2 of those 5 tough games. And then I'm still sitting there with 4 wins. But then when you lose that, you're like, oh boy, we're in trouble. We got to really steal something here. And so, we'll see, but they've got to stay together. Obviously Tulane's coming in here, really, really, really good team, really well coached. John Summerall is tremendous. I'm a huge John Summerall guy. But it's tough. They've got to find a way to win, obviously, but they've got to find a way to find something positive during this stretch too. I mean, whether it be, and there's no moral victories. I understand that, but you know what? They felt pretty good about themselves coming out of that Arkansas game, and obviously that didn't turn into a win. Navy's really good. Now that's one thing that we sort of losing sight of a little bit is, boy, Navy's good, man. And they're a tough team to play. They're the precision on those guys. I mean, they're amazing. Now, you can't lay an egg like you did, like, UAB did. It was a bad day. I mean, they laid an egg, but you've got to find some way to get some positive feeling going, whatever that may be. Obviously there's nothing more positive than a win, even if it's a 3-2. But you've got to find a way to get something positive out of it moving forward, or you're staring at 1-6, and then Lord knows what's going to be happening or said at 1-6.
Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Steve, I've been in this business a long time, and one thing I've always said is you can lose games and you cannot treat people nicely, but you can't do both. And now you said that he takes care of his inner circle, the people that are closest to him, the people that he cares about. But when you turn a fan base, or when you start turning a fan base against you, like this weekend, and I don't know how far back that goes before this weekend, but I mean, how much of that kind of backlash can Trent survive, even under these circumstances?
Yeah, that's a good question, Maurice, and I agree with you on all that. I mean, yeah, it is. It's tough to survive that. It really is. So I don't know. That's kind of the question out there. How much can he withstand here? I think the one thing that's funny about this whole thing to me, or kind of, I don't know, not funny, but I have never been around a coach, the head coach, a college football head coach, that is more media friendly, just willing to do whatever you need him to do, so it was kind of weird, it was kind of weird Saturday, just sort of how that whole thing transpired, because, he's again, I mean, there's never been, I've covered him since he got on campus here. And I mean, I can't tell you one time where I was turned down on something I wanted to do, like anytime I wanted to get him, and not just me, I think anybody that asked, so that's kind of weird. That was kind of weird the other day, but with the fans, I don't know how, I don't know how much he gets out in the fan base, type thing. Like his, I mean, he's very willing to talk to anybody. I mean, I know that, but like, his coaching show that he does on Monday night, which will be tonight, which will be interesting to see how many people, there's not a lot of people that show up to that. Now he interacts with all of them, and he's cordial with everybody, and he loves this town and all that kind of stuff. But it's all about what you can do, man, what you're doing on a win and loss, because again, if he's 3-1, we're probably not discussing this right now, and so if he doesn't win, then it's just going to be, then yeah, I don't know how much he can withstand. Again, that's something that's going to be something that's in progress right now.
Right. Steve, we appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon. And do you go to those coaches shows on Monday?
I do not go. Generally, I just listen to them on the radio. I live an hour away, and so I'm like, I don't know if I want to drive in, do a 2-hour round trip to do that. But I'm going to keep a close listen on this one, and I have a couple moles in the audience there that are going to let me know if it gets too ugly. And but I will be listening to it.
There you go. Work smarter, not harder. Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner. We appreciate you spending some time. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
I appreciate you guys. Y'all take care.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective abodes. Really enjoyed re-listening to that conversation with Steve Irvine of the Birmingham Banner, and I don't think things have gotten a whole lot better for Trent Dilfer, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. Right now, we are joined by Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian, covers Memphis Grizzlies basketball. The Grizzlies get going officially 2 weeks from last night when they travel to Salt Lake City and take on the Utah Jazz. But they've got, 4 preseason games between now and then, including tonight as Charlotte comes to the FedEx Forum. So, Drew, I know you got to get over there, but we appreciate you taking some time with us, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me. I'll be here for like another hour or so, and then I got to get down there for Taylor Jenkins' press conference. But excited to have basketball here. Excited for it to come back. This is a very interesting season for the team, so we'll see how it goes. Who knows what it'll look like tonight? I imagine we'll see some starters, but not all, and it should be a fun one.
After the season you guys went through last year, and I say you guys because it's no fun covering a team like the team that you had to cover last year. I would imagine, being healthier and being more competitive is a bit more palatable for a beat writer.
Yeah, absolutely. I got lucky because when I first came to Memphis, I covered Penny Hardaway in his first few years. He signed the #1 recruiting class a few times. James Wiseman, there was a lot of drama and saga going on with all of that. And then eventually I decided I wanted to make the switch to the NBA. Fortunately, that job was open, got a little bit of a promotion, and that just happened to be Ja Morant's rookie season. So I've had it pretty good up until last year. Last year was pretty miserable, though. I mean, the beginning of the season, they were just trying to survive and hang on, and they got to January, and you felt like, okay, maybe if this is a feisty team, they might sneak into the play-in and be scrappy from there. Did not play out that way. First, you had the jaw injury, Desmond Bain, Marcus Smart. They were dropping like flies, and sometimes that happens in basketball. So we got a year off. They're calling it a gap year. We'll see how it goes from here. Hopefully that they can get back to a competitive state. But there is a lot of mystery that's surrounding this team right now in terms of what this is going to look like. They overhauled the coaching staff. They're bringing a lot of players back. They're introducing a very important rookie in Zach Edey. So who knows? I mean, I just wrote a column last week from Media Day, and it seems like everybody from the coach down to Ja Morant are all kind of wondering what this is going to look like when the season gets started. They have confidence that they'll be good, but these guys, for the most part, have not played together or haven't played together in a very long time.
Drew, it wouldn't be real quick. It wouldn't be a Grizzlies season with already kickstarting with a little bit of injury news. Seems like Jaren Jackson's injury is going to end up being okay. And then Ja, tweaks his ankle last night, in fact. So I'm curious, should we already be concerned before the season even begins about the woe is me with the injury bug here?
I mean, it's concerning that the players continue to get hurt, of course. These particular injuries are not that concerning for the team, I would say. With Jaren, they haven't come out and said officially that they expect he'll be back for the start of the regular season, but it is a low-grade strain of his hamstring. So not really even big enough to put some sort of news release out of he'll be back and be reevaluated in whatever amount of days. So I would consider him more of like the questionable type, I guess, on opening night to play. With Ja's injury, the implication seems to be that he probably won't play again in the preseason, but they are expecting him to be fully ready to go by the start of the regular season. It's a little disappointing because, as I mentioned, they're introducing a brand new offense that's pretty innovative and is going to look a lot different than a lot of teams in the NBA. And there are definitely some kinks to iron out there. And they're not going to have the opportunity to do so, at least not with a ton of minutes in the preseason. So that part of it is disappointing. But overall, these two injuries, not of huge concern. I mean, the other ones that they're dealing with, Gigi Jackson broke a bone in his foot. He should be back likely in early December. You never know with foot injuries. They're a little bit tricky, but they're thinking closer to early December. And then Vince Williams Jr. is doing a lot of 1-on-0, some basketball practice stuff, but he has a stress reaction in his leg, and he is probably doubtful for opening night, but should be back pretty soon after the season gets underway.
Drew, obviously, you mentioned Zach Edey, the first-round pick. It felt like, to me, square peg, round hole for Zach Edey and that Grizzlies roster that really likes to get up and down, and a 7'4" guy who doesn't get up and down. Tell me why I was wrong.
I think if you were to be wrong on that take, you would point to what Jonas Valanciunas and Steven Adams meant to this team. Two guys that also weren't running the floor particularly well, but were critical in grabbing offensive rebounds and elevating the number of possessions that this team gets on a nightly basis. While I do want to play with pace, I think the ideology this year is we need to play with pace and we need to generate as many possessions as we possibly can. Their goal is to have a higher true shooting percentage than the other team while also attempting more shots. That's the number one goal on a nightly basis for this overhauled coaching staff. And so I think Zach Edey is impressed so far with the way he's been able to move. Is he going to be the best player at running the floor? I'm not sure, but I think he's very important in terms of keeping this team afloat offensively. If you go back 2 seasons from, let's throw last year out the window, obviously with everybody hurt. Go back 2 seasons before that. You had the Grizzlies as one of the top offensive teams in the league, inside the top 10. They were terrible in half-court offense both of those seasons. They were really great in transition. You know how they made up for being terrible in the half court? By grabbing a ton of offensive rebounds. So if Zach Edey can do that for this team, I think his physicality, the way he sets screens is obviously critical for Ja Morant. There's a reason he's the favorite to win Rookie of the Year, by odds right now. And I think it's because he's got a clear role on a team that's expected to be a lot better. And he's going to be the beneficiary of all of those Ja misses at the rim with easy cleanup opportunities, easy opportunities for rebounds, points. And so I think that the concerns are valid about his foot speed. We can't downplay that. But I do think it's equally as critical that they have some sort of physical force in there to open up space for Ja, grab the offensive rebounds, and help a team that historically has not been very good in the half-court offense.
Thank you. Thank you for at least validating that my thoughts have some basis anyway. Because I know that if I have a strength in sports, it's not the NBA, but I do know that Ja Morant in the open court is something special, and the idea of having anybody out there clogging that up is not very appealing to me. So we'll see how that goes. In a perfect world, Ja's battled injuries, among other things Ja has battled. In a perfect world, how many games would he play for the Grizzlies this year?
I think you're happy if you get 65. I think that, and it's right around the mark of, being eligible to win awards. Because he does want to win awards. He does want to be recognized as part of those all-NBA teams. He has been in the past, but he's got to reach that number in order to qualify. And, the Grizzlies understand that it's going to be really challenging for Ja Morant to stay healthy for an entire season, just because of the way that he plays basketball. It's so aggressive, it's so electrifying, but it's also a little dangerous, right? I think it would be unrealistic to expect that he's going to stay healthy for an entire 82-game season. But if he gets to anywhere between 62 and 68, you're pretty happy with that. And you do have enough star power on this team, I think, to stay afloat in moments that he's not there. There is a big question about the backup point guard. They don't really have a true backup point guard on the main roster right now. They have Scottie Pippen Jr., who I'm sure you guys are familiar with because of his ties to Vanderbilt, who played really well at the end of last year, played really well in Summer League, but is still on a 2-way contract. And I think he's in good position now to be now that Derrick Rose retired, to be bumped up into a main roster spot and have one of those positions on the team. And he'll probably be the Grizzlies' backup point guard, I would guess, at the beginning of the season. It's going to be important that he continues to develop and plays well because, like I said, you don't expect Ja to go the whole 82. If you get 65 from him, I think you're pretty happy.
Drew, I wanted to ask you. We talked a little bit last week and the weeks prior about Derrick Rose and his departure, and everybody gave him his just flowers. But I'm curious, with some of that contract money, kind of where do the Grizzlies sit? Is that a spend if necessary type deal? Now, what move, if any, can the Grizzlies do with that money at this point, or do they make a move in your mind?
Sure. So Derrick Rose was a veteran, 10-plus year veteran minimum player for the Grizzlies, but he was on a 2-year deal. And the Grizzlies, prior to Derrick Rose retiring and giving back all of the money, by the way, which was an important piece to this, prior to that happening, the Grizzlies were bumped up against the luxury tax already. So there wasn't a ton of space there. There was enough space to sign one more player and add a 15th person on the roster. No one really expected that they would do that. They were leaving a space empty for trade possibilities and or maybe the buyout market later in the season. Right now, they're still pretty close up against the tax. They're not really going to – I wouldn't expect that they're going to add some big name between now and the start of the season. But there is enough space to sign a guy like Scottie Pippen and give you a little bit more depth as you go into the year. They're going to have to sign another player. They're only at 13 main roster spots right now. There's 15 typically, plus three-way contracts. If they do indeed bump Scottie up to a main roster spot, they'll also have to backfill a 2-way roster spot, which allows you to play in the G League and then 55 games in the NBA. And I think that they can afford to wait there at least until the season is about to begin, because there's lots of guys on training camp rosters at the moment. You don't know who's going to make teams. Maybe there are some guys that are signed to other teams across the league who will get cut before the regular season starts. And then you could fill in your 2-way spot behind Scottie with one of those guys. So I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but I would expect that they make a roster move, and there is just enough space under that luxury tax. The luxury tax is a big deal. Like it's a challenge because the NBA is like one of the only leagues, if not the only league, I can't really think of another one, in which if you go into the luxury tax, you're basically expected to lose money unless you're a franchise that's just raking it in, and the Grizzlies are a small market franchise. So that would be a big step for the Grizzlies if they were to cross over the first apron. There would be some roster restrictions if they were to do that and go into the luxury tax. I'm not so sure that they're going to be willing to do that. Everything has kind of signaled that they're not. So they have a little bit of space, but I wouldn't expect them to have a ton.
I'm also curious so much about Ja, but Brandon Clark, and he is a guy that's still kind of coming back in a real sense from an injury. And we talked about the front court earlier. Where does he fit in this equation, and how does he look so far?
He looked great. He looked great in the first preseason game at Dallas. He led the team in points with 17. And obviously he was coming off an Achilles last year, but I think it was good for him to come back late in the season and get a little bit of run just to get back in a flow. I don't know if there's any player on this team who stands to benefit more than Brandon Clark and maybe Santi Aldama from these changes that they're making offensively. This offense that they're running is going to look closer to like Mike D'Antoni's Rockets than the Boston Celtics or another team in the NBA. They brought in Tuomas Asalo, who was a head coach at Paris basketball in Europe. We know that the NBA, borrows a lot of stylistic, concepts from Europe and brings them to America. It's kind of a copycat league, honestly. And this offense is predicated on a lot of cutting, a lot of movement. I think you're going to see guys flying around as the ball moves. There's going to be a lot more ball movement for the Grizzlies this season. We already saw that in the first preseason game. They're going to try to play extremely fast. I think turnovers are going to be key for this team. They're going to turn the ball over. They're playing so fast that it's going to happen, which is why offensive rebounding is critical, because that's how you make up possessions. But in the way that this offense is structured, with every pass, everyone on the floor is moving. There's going to be a lot of cutting opportunities. There's going to be less pick and rolls. I think Brandon Clark, with the use of his floater in the lane, and we saw it a lot in the first preseason game, is really going to benefit from getting to touch the ball in areas that he may not have, received the ball in the past. He was a dunker guy. He would stand under the basket and catch lobs occasionally, fight for offensive rebounds, and he did a really good job.
But early in his career, he showed a lot of promise with those floaters and his work around the basket that may not just be dunking the ball. And those opportunities are really going to come back to him. So Brandon Clark is key. And the other one I mentioned was Santi Aldama. I think he's only 23 years old. People forget about him a lot. I think he's got an opportunity to be really good. He's extremely versatile. He can play on the perimeter. He can play on the inside. Now he's going to get the opportunity to do both a lot instead of kind of just standing in the corner. And we saw him play in the Olympics for the Spanish national team, and he was incredible. He was their leading scorer, leading rebounder. He led the team in efficiency, and he was operating in an offense with Spain's national team that is similar, although not exactly the same. The Grizzlies are going to run fewer plays and stuff, but it was similar to what they're doing now. Those two guys could be in for big seasons, really.
Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And it's interesting that Wade just asked you that and you answered the way you did, Drew, because I was getting ready to ask you, who is somebody that, as a Memphis Grizzlies player, folks don't talk enough about, but will be talking about maybe by Christmas or somewhere along through there once we get a little deeper into the season?
Yeah. Okay, let me think. There's like three directions I think you could go here.
Okay.
The first would be Santi. I think Santi would be a good answer there. I just talked about him. I think another answer would be Desmond Bane. I know he's already kind of a star and he's known, but if he becomes an all-star and makes another jump, and it looks like last season he was in the process of doing that before he got injured, that's a guy that we could be talking about. But I'll go with somebody different than those two, and I'll tell you Vince Williams Jr., nicknamed by some of the media here the Bug, because he is a pest, especially defensively. And he was a guy that we talked about a lot last year simply out of necessity because there weren't other guys on the court. But I don't think he gathered a lot of national attention. Now, this is a guy that, like, Kevin Durant has credited after games for being a really good defender. Luka Doncic has credited after the games for being a really good defender. He was, when he was drafted by the Grizzlies late in the second round, he immediately signed on as a two-way player, but he was like an analytical dream, I guess, for GMs. And we know the Grizzlies are very centered around those analytics and that sort of math. He was really efficient. He played really well. There was a stretch of like 10 or 15 games where he scored in double digits, got up over 20 points a few different times. We don't know if he'll be ready for the start of the season, but he's going to be a big piece. We all circle Marcus Smart in terms of like being an addition because we didn't see him really on the court last year. But the discovery of Vince Williams Jr. was equally as important. And yes, Marcus Smart's going to play on the perimeter and take on a lot of the difficult assignments. But I would be shocked if Vince Williams Jr. isn't out there almost as much as Marcus Smart taking on some of the other team's best players. So he's a critical piece. And if the Grizzlies are really good, I think he's going to be a part of it. So I would probably go with Vince, a.k.a. the Bug.
Average 10 points, 5.5 boards, 3.4 assists. Second round pick out of Virginia Commonwealth. So not a great pedigree per se, not a whole lot of buzz, but yeah, the Bug. So
he does the dirty work, man.
Somebody's got to, right? I mean, every successful team has somebody that does the dirty work like that. So looking forward to it. Again, Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Drew, we appreciate it, man. Tell Brandon Miller. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mo, and then I got to ask Drew one quick question here.
I was just going to say, be sure and tell Brandon Miller we said hey when you see him tonight.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
As an Alabama graduate, I'm looking forward to watching him play. For sure.
Hey, you walked right into it, Drew. You mentioned Vanderbilt earlier, and I know you're a Bama boy, so I had to ask, how are you coping with this week? It's been tough, I would imagine.
That was a tough go. I don't know if anyone has spit their good graces quite as fast as Kalen DeBoer did in Tuscaloosa.
In a week, man.
But guess what? Like, I got to give Vanderbilt some credit, though, because they just lined up and whooped our tail on defense. Like, I think that they were prepared schematically, they did everything that they needed to do. We were running that single high safety the entire game, and just repeatedly, they hit the tight ends on little out routes, hit the running backs out of the backfield. They made the big play on fourth down when they needed to do it. They did everything they had to do to win that game. And it was definitely an embarrassing loss for the program for sure. And it's funny because like I was obviously ticked over the weekend. My wife said, "You know what? You chose this life when you went to school there, man. Everybody loves to dance on your grave." And I know she's in the other room laughing right now, but it's true. I chose this life. I've had a lot of good years, so I don't try to squash other people's fun when it happens, unless it's Tennessee, because I really don't like Tennessee. But everybody else, they get to have their fun. Or Auburn. Yeah, not Auburn either. Yeah, I don't like to let Auburn have their fun either. But I think that, all jokes aside, Vanderbilt just came out and played great. And Pavia is a baller, man. That guy can play ball. And it was pretty impressive. We'll be all right. Tide will be all right.
Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian. Man, we appreciate your time and appreciate your insight on that Alabama situation as well, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew.
All right. Hey, we are going to roll straight into the final segment of Street Sport. Tomorrow, HBCU tour. So Stephen A., Molly, and Shannon Sharp will be over on the yard. They are expected to speak with TSU football coach Eddie George and apparently former TSU men's basketball coach Cy Alexander will be on the show as well. It's a morning show. What time does it start? 9 a.m. I think. I'm not a big first taker, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But one development coming out of this, apparently former NFL quarterback Cam Newton will be joining First Take, and he will be making his debut tomorrow morning here in Nashville. And it's a little ironic because Cam's older brother, I believe, Cecil Newton, was a Cecil Newton Jr. was a offensive lineman at TSU back in the late 90s. So it's an interesting development there. But yeah, First Take is on the TSU campus tomorrow. Go check it out or check it out on your TV.
Yeah, should be fun. Got a friend that works over there. She's been amped up for a while about this. And it's funny that Cam is back, or on air. Maybe he can finally address what really went down between, him and Travis Hunter and Shador. Because,
him and Shador.
He got shut down pretty good. So supposedly that's not the full story. Maybe he'll give everybody what really went down.
There's always a story behind the story when it comes to Cam, isn't there? So, yeah, we'll see if he gives us any clarity on that. Wade, while you were gone, your Jets made a move this week that continues to reverberate as the week progresses. Could Mike Vrabel be your guy?
I don't know if Vrabel's going to be the guy. I don't know if it's going to be Ben Johnson. Don't know if Jeff Ulbricht's going to, maybe wiggle his way into a full-time post. But the Jets, they classic Jets. Woody Johnson comes out and says this is the most talented Jets team he's ever seen, and did not like the direction that apparently it was going. And we got the classic, you might as well just stay in London because you don't have a job when you get back situation from Bob Saleh the other day.
Did you think it was a little quick, Wade? I mean, you guys are 2-3, but you're coming into a portion of the schedule, as I guess it was Blaine and I when we were discussing it on Tuesday. The schedule is a bit more favorable for the Jets here between now and their bye week. This is a team that could easily be back in the wild card mix, regardless of who the coach is. It feels like. I mean, what were your thoughts when you heard that Salah was gone?
I mean, it did seem a little quick. It also, the guy is 20 and 36, which I know they've last year was a little bit of a wash. His first 2 years, he was working with a very depleted roster, but last year was kind of unfortunate. The defense has been playing great, and he deserves a lot of credit for what the defense has done. I want to say their advanced stats have them ranked like 4th in the defensive rankings right now. So, I mean, that part is tough because he's done such a good job with the defense. But, man, the offense, when you're the head coach, you got to bear everything. And the offense has not been as crisp and been as fluid as you would have liked. You certainly didn't think that going into the season that Minnesota would be a team that you'd really be super duper worried about based on your expectations. And then kind of, again, that when you have that London game and you come out and you're just lackluster and everybody's watching first thing in the morning, I mean, it just kind of really puts a bad taste in the mouth of the ownership, apparently. And, Woody has pulled the plug, and yeah, it does feel a little bit premature, to say the least.
Following up on that, apparently there was some conjecture as to whether or not Salah was planning on making a move at offensive coordinator. Well, Ulbrich has done so. And, playing into the Vrabel connection, maybe, I don't know, but Todd Downing will take over play calling for the Jets going forward, replacing Nathaniel Hackett. Hackett will remain on staff and retain the title of offensive coordinator, but the final say on the game plan and the play calling will go to Downing. How does that work?
It's classic Jets. Everything is confusing. Everything is weird. And this, I think, ultimately may be what kind of it feels like how this played out with Salah getting fired. I mean, it almost feels like, hey, you got to fire Hackett. And Salah, who's regarded as such a nice guy, and everybody speaks so glowingly about the character of this guy, it almost feels like he didn't want to make that move. And it was, my way or the highway type situation. Well, if you're not going to fire him, then guess what? I'll just fire you, is the way that kind of felt. But this, Downing, outside of his legal issues, had some bright moments, especially here in Nashville before he made the move to New York last season. So this could be fascinating. It also feels like, man, Hackett just does not, other than being Aaron Rodgers' boy, like if this was any other situation, it doesn't feel like Hackett would really be still here standing. So if Downing kind of gets in and makes things just maybe, to answer your original question, I don't know how this is going to work. It's classic Jets. Everything is ugly. Everything is a mess and borderline dumpster fire at all times.
Yeah. Meanwhile, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, he resents speculation that he had a hand in Salah's firing, calling the motion ridiculous and patently false. Methinks the lady doth protesteth too much.
Yeah, this is hard. This is a tough situation, right? You don't know who to believe because Woody Johnson is kind of this, now that he's back in the ownership after that political stint that he had overseas as the ambassador in Ireland, I think it was, or maybe even England. But now that he's back, he's kind of flexing his muscle. We know that Rodgers carries a lot of weight internally, kind of a shadow GM. I don't know. This is weird, man. And it also, like I said, it just stinks. It's classic Jets. You're right. The schedule is favorable. I mean, if they win versus the Bills on Monday Night Football, we'll be saying one thing that does seem is that Ulbrich is really going to benefit because the folks inside that building seem to love him. And maybe this was just a situation. Hey, he may not be the guy long term, but we can at least get a spark out of this team because they're kind of lifeless right now. I don't think, I think the internet is salivating for Belichick to get back in and maybe stick it to Kraft one time or two on his way out. We're a long way to go. And so Ulbrich taking over in the short term is going to be the best move for them to kind of rejuvenate them because, yeah, this is a classic Jets kind of just head scratcher.
Absolutely. Thursday night football, San Francisco at Seattle. That is a 7:15 kickoff on Amazon Prime. WNBA Finals, Game 1, the Minnesota Lynx at the New York Liberty. That's a 7 o'clock tip on ESPN. We'll be talking about both of those tomorrow right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back with us 2 o'clock right here in the Lee Company studios. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see y'all tomorrow.